Conscious Creative from MuseWorks Audio. The Conscious Creative is a podcast featuring interviews with artists who are doing transformational work in their craft and in their communities. Join us as we discuss different artistic philosophies, give you brand new tools to bring back to your creative spaces, and build a community of artists dedicated to deepening their relationship with their craft. I'm your host, Mike Irish. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to another episode of The Conscious Creative. Today we have Kyle AleXander. Kyle AleXander is a hip-hop artist from Delaware with an incredibly powerful message and driving force behind his music. Last year he charted on the Billboard gospel charts with his song Living My Truth, and his stock is sure to rise as he continues to ply his trade and share his message. You can find his music everywhere and follow him on Instagram at I am Kyle AleXander. We sat down and talked about his artistic beginnings, what continues to drive him creatively, as well as being a creative in 2020, and some advice for new artists just dipping their toes in the music industry. As always, I really enjoyed this episode and this chat I had with Kyle. He is a really incredible person, I think, and I think there is a lot of congruence between his message and his actions. Just before we get into the episode, I have a couple quick messages. I want to take a moment to talk about my friends over at Soundfly. They make incredible online music courses that you can either take on your own with a low-cost subscription or one-on-one with a professional mentor. I've been doing the professional mentor to help grow my Instagram organically. It's been a huge help, and I've had some growth already in only a couple weeks, and I'm really looking forward to continue putting the tools I've learned so you'll be able to see the evidence in 3-6 months or even a year. But beyond just social media, you can learn really any kind of music education. You can learn beat making, mixing, songwriting, composing, arranging, synths, home recording. There's really anything. If you go the mentor route, they'll build a customized learning plan around your personal goals and needs and provide you with in-depth feedback on your work. But if you don't want that hands-on support, the courses are creative and niche enough for you to find your groove and have fun doing it at your own pace. Whether you want to learn how to orchestrate for a string ensemble, build a low-end heavy trap beat in Ableton Live, or brush up on your harmonic theory to make more compelling and emotive music, there's definitely a course for you. And the best part is I partnered with them to get you 15% off your monthly subscription. Just head over to soundfly.com to sign up and enter CreativePod15 to let them know I sent you and to start improving on all the musical things you've always wanted to learn. My last message before we get into the show is about MuseWorks Audio and what I'll be offering as we go into the new year. If you're an artist who's listening, you've likely made some promises to yourself about what you want to accomplish creatively this year. As always, I'm offering quality, reliable, and in-depth mixing and mastering. I like to call it holistic post-production. And to me, what that means is really having an understanding and knowledge of how sacred the creative process is and being sure to honor that through the final stages. I believe that creating great art is a transformational act, and that's why at MuseWorks is about more than audio quality. As an audio engineer, I aim to help artists through this often tough creative process. Through conscious communication, I work to develop a deep understanding of your intentions and vision for your project, and from there we work to create a container in which your art can transform into a fully realized vision to be shared with the world. If that sounds of interest to you or sounds like how you would like to work with an audio engineer, go to museworksaudio.com or direct message me on Instagram at museworksaudio to request a quote. Now, without further ado, let's get into the show with Kyle AleXander. Cool, man. Thank you, Kyle AleXander, for being on The Conscious Creative and taking the time to do the interview, man. I'm really looking forward to chopping it up.
No problem, man.
Yeah. Do you want to just give the audience a little bit of a background on how you started making music and what what drove you to creation, and also what is continuing to drive you.
Yeah. So music has been in my family. I mean, since like before I was born. It's crazy. Like every day I'm finding out, every month I'm finding out more and more of my family was involved in like music, whether they were like musicians or they were managers or actual artists themselves. So like my family has like a deep, 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 deep like musical history. And I never knew, like as a kid, like I played an instrument in the band. So my
Okay.
grandfather, I didn't know my grandfather was like a famous jazz player.
What was his
Yeah.
name?
His name is Charles Wilson.
Okay.
But he played with like I think like Miles Davis, and
Wow.
like he played and traveled with like some jazz legends. And I had no idea. Like my aunts told me at Thanksgiving one year they saw like I won an award for hip hop, and they were like, "Did you know your uncle was a famous jazz?" And my dad was like
No
telling me
way.
stories from when he was a kid. So that's pretty cool. Man, I started out music like in middle school.
Okay.
Like we used to do beats on the table.
Yeah.
We'd like freestyle to the beats, or we'd freestyle, pull up in the hallway and try to rap to like entertain like your friends or get the
Yeah.
girls' attention. uh, but that's how it started. I always had a love for hip hop there.
Yeah.
Me and one of my friends formed a group um, in the I guess 2000s when I was still in school. Um, and then shortly, like it really kind of became real in 2010. We did like a mixtape for some kids at my church,
Cool.
and we formed a group, and that group lasted for like 4 years. And we kind of disbanded. Everybody had like separate interests.
Yeah.
But I honestly heard God tell me to like keep going,
Wow.
and that's when I did like I got back in. Um, and I was like, man, if this is what you want me to do, like pretty much show me or prove it to me. And then a producer in my area, like one of the biggest producers in my state, called me and texted me. He's like, hey, are you still doing music? And he like gave me like 5 beats, and he charges probably like $1,000 a beat. So he gave me like 5 grand worth of like
Wow.
music.
Wow.
And I'm like, all right, so I know this
Yeah.
is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Wow.
So from there, like I just started creating. And the first single I dropped was Oh My God. It won
Okay.
a bunch of awards. People loved it, shot a video, and
Yeah.
just been off to the races ever since.
So those beats, did they become those singles that are up on streaming services and everything now,
So
or?
some of them did, yeah.
Yeah.
Some of them are still songs and music I'm working on now.
Yeah.
And as I continue to go forward, as like I release the songs, I'll make sure I come back and tell you, hey, this is one of the beats that he gave me.
Yeah. Yeah.
To, yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a song called "Living My Truth." That was one of the beats
Okay.
that he gave me.
Cool. Cool,
So
man.
yeah,
That's incredible. And I feel like that if you have that sign, I mean, I'm sure there's still tough times and times where you like
yeah,
question the creative drive, but when you have that like sign sent to you, I feel like that must instill the drive
yeah,
so intensely, eh?
yep, absolutely.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I mean, I know you mentioned to me that you had some tough losses this year and you missed out on
Yeah,
a tour, right?
yep.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I assume that probably helped you overcome the obstacles, but has there been anything that's really been driving you forward throughout 2020?
Yeah. Just like the passion to get my music out to people.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, 2020 has been like a really tough year, just from like losing like shows. That's been rough. Not being able to tour. I was actually scheduled for 2 different tours this year,
yeah,
and they
yeah.
both got canceled. Then there was um, there were like some other really cool opportunities with like major radio stations. And I wasn't able to do them just because of COVID and everything that's going on. But I lost my grandmom this year. I lost my cousin this year. Most recently, my uncle passed, honestly, a couple of days ago. So it's just been like a rough year of losing people. And like anytime that happens, it makes me like really like hone in on my thoughts and think like, well, it reignites like my purpose. Like your time here is so short. Your time here is so limited.
Yeah.
You need to put all you can into what you feel like you've been created to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel that, man. I'm sorry to hear about all that. That's so much to carry. Holy.
Yeah.
I know that, I mean, creativity has been limited in a lot of ways, I think, as well. But I think that when we're limited, we have to come up with brand new ways of doing things. And has there been like any sort of stuff that you found to help you overcome the obstacles in being creative?
Yeah, like so this time, like when everyone's been in quarantine, I've gotten like a ton of beats, and I've developed like some really cool relationships with like some really dope producers. So I've been able to get new beats and new music from like a lot of really really dope producers. So that's been a way. But then just being motivated by like other people consistently putting out music has been like a huge piece of motivation. And then just like the feedback I was able to get on my music.
Yeah.
And then some of the like doors that have opened this year, some of the accolades I've received have been like super motivational. So, I mean, this year has been hard, personally, like losing family members and things like that. But professionally, like with my music and like my job, like it's been like the best year of my life, which is so crazy. And that's I guess that's how life works. That like you would have that like that dichotomy at the same time, where personally it's hard, but professionally it's amazing. It's so weird. So weird.
That must be a very, very strange feeling of like moving through and getting all these like all these great bonuses and like dope things happening in your life, but then maybe the things that are like that really, really matter are weighing you down. So that must be a weird situation to be in, man. But props to you for just continuing and carrying on, man. And also like some of the music that you put out has just been so powerful as well.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
I mean, I think it's necessary to continue, especially when you have a message, right?
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously 2020 has been a hell of a ride for pretty much everybody, but do you have anything that you're like, what your goals are for the next year and how to make 2021 a better year for yourself?
Yeah. So I have a single I'm dropping in January. I have an EP coming January. I have a full-length album coming in 2021. I have a freestyle series that I'm going to be dropping, like freestyle verses. Coming in 2021. As long as COVID, we're able to open things up, I have 2 tours coming. I have like big features coming in 2021. So, I mean, my 2021 is like absolutely crazy. Honestly, COVID or not, I mean, my 2021 is absolutely crazy. Some of the things I've done to like prepare for that, I've constantly been finding like new motivation to write. Like I have songs about like my grandmother and my cousin, and just like my goals and my ambitions. And it's weird. Like I'm more, in spite of everything that's happened, like I'm more blessed than I've ever been.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like you have a perspective that no matter what you go through, you can come out on the other side.
Yeah.
If you just keep pushing towards your goals, keep pushing towards your dreams, and just not letting anything that life throws at you affect you and stop you.
Yeah.
And like keeping like your faith in God, and just like continuing to push forward. And I put a lot of messages in my music. You would almost have to like read the lines, and like, and then you can kind of like connect the dots.
Yeah.
To like exactly how I've been pushing through during this time.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything that you've found personally for yourself that's really helped you, like, um take all this like pain and transmute it in this time? Like, has there been any practices that you've had in your life, or just through your music, or has there been anything that you found really has helped you get through?
I mean, um self-reflection,
Yeah.
meditation,
Yeah.
like that kind of stuff helps a lot, to be honest with you. My faith
Yeah.
is the main thing, to be honest, that has like sustained me during this time. um and just being able to like have to put things in perspective, I think have been like one of the main
Yeah.
things to help you get through. It's like you kind of look at it and say, you know what, in spite of all these things, like I still have this purpose, I still have these dope records, and the music that I'm creating can help someone.
Yeah.
So it's like, and I always think like, man, if I don't make these songs, who's on the other side waiting for these songs?
Yeah.
Like I'm sure, like if you've ever had like a bad day, like you put on a song,
Yeah.
and that song can sometimes take the pain away. But it's like,
Absolutely.
what if I'm providing that for someone and I don't make it? Then that antidote for that person is never there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like just having that, and I've had people reach out to me and say, man, this song or this like thing you did, or this show that I came to and I heard what you said at this show helped me make it. Like that's like the whole reason that I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like looking outside of yourself, like, it's if you're like making music to be like the best guitarist ever, or like the best rapper ever, that's some motivation, but doing it to help others, I think must be a deeper motivation.
Absolutely.
You said meditation. Is there any specific meditation practices that you're doing? Like, is it breathing meditation, or?
You know what? So my wife and I came up with this really cool meditation thing that we do. It's actually really dope. We take a bowl,
Yeah.
and I'm sitting like on one side, she's sitting on the other side, we're sitting on the floor. We put the bowl on the floor. We'll have like some meditation music on, and we'll clear our mind of any negative thoughts.
Yeah.
And every negative thought, we'll say it, almost like take it out of the air and put it into
Wow.
the bowl. And then we'll replace that negative thought with a positive thought.
Yeah.
So if you're like, as an example, like if your negative thought was like, I'm going to get fired today. You say, I take that negative thought, I put it into the bowl. That's not going to happen. The positive thought you replace it with is, today I'm going to go in and have the best day at work ever. I'm going to get a promotion. I'm going to get an accommodation. I'm going to get a bonus. And that's how you take those negative thoughts and replace them with the positive thoughts.
Yeah.
And that has been like huge.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I find myself even doing that. Like sometimes if I don't have the time in the morning to get to that meditation spot, while I'm like in the car driving to work, I'll have that same time where I'm like, I'll take and speak my negative thoughts out and say, this isn't going to happen, and replace it with a positive thought. I mean, it's powerful.
Wow.
It's really, really powerful.
Wow. Did you guys come up with that yourself, or?
Yeah, we literally like, we were sitting there years ago, and I randomly was like, hey, let's try something. And we were doing it. And before, we weren't like using a bowl. We were just like putting our hands on the ground. I was like, no, let's make it more tangible. We got a bowl and put it in the bowl. And I mean, it's really powerful. Really, really powerful. Yeah.
Wow. That's so cool. That's so cool, man. Wow. I love that. I'm gonna have to do that myself. So I mean, obviously you come from a perspective of real positivity and empowerment, and you and I both know that the industry can just be such a crazy place, and a place full of like predatory people. Do you have some advice you want to give to young artists and trying to make their way in the industry?
Yeah. I would say know who you can trust and find that out early. Find out who's in your corner and find out, like, you got to know the difference between friends and fans.
Yeah. Yeah.
And have people who believe in you. Like, that's what I would say. This industry can be super cold and super cliquish at the same time. But it's important to follow like what's on the inside of you and what you believe and know is true, but then also have people around you who are speaking the same language as you. Like, when I create and when I do music, like, I know that most people are going to like it, but everybody's not going to love it. And there might be people who don't like it.
Yeah.
I never play to the people that don't like it. I saw like I always tell people you got to have like a shooter's mentality. And what I mean by that is I saw a Kobe Bryant quote that said, before I go 0 for 9, I'll go 0 for 30.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what that means is if you go 0 for 9, that means you stopped yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you let whatever was going against you stop you. And it's like when you go 0 for 30, that means you're constantly in attack mode. You're constantly in like grind mode. You're constantly going after it. And that's what I would say to young artists is like constantly go after it, constantly push towards it no matter what is said to you. And another thing I would say is continually work on your craft. Like that is the thing that I spend the most time on. I'm like a huge student of the game. So artists that motivate me, like I'm studying them. Like, so a big like artists that motivate me, like Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole, Kanye West, Lecrae, Andy Mineo, Stevie Wonder, Michael Jackson, Prince. Like I'm studying their music. Linkin Park, Imagine Dragons are some of like my motivations. And I'm just studying.
Yeah.
So I'm listening to like, why did they say this like that? Or how did they bend this word? Drake is another huge like motivation to me. Tory Lanez. It's like, how did they say this like that? Or why did they do this that way? Or why did the music change here? You know what I mean? So I'm a student of the game. So I'm always studying, always learning how to perfect my craft. So that's what I would say to young artists is to find people who believe in you and see the vision the way you see it. And to always work on your craft. Like before anything else, you should be working on your craft because no matter what your subject matter is, if it's dope art, it's going to be received well. But if it's bad art, you could be talking about the most popular subject ever and no one's going to like it. So.
That's such great advice, man. Such great advice. I love craftsmanship when it comes to music and just people who are just real craftsmen with whatever their art may be. And it's funny you say Imagine Dragons, and I can understand how, like, listening to Kendrick and J. Cole and like digging into their words, but I feel like with like Imagine Dragons or someone like that, is it more like the songwriting as a whole or the instrumentation and stuff like that, or is it lyricism as well?
So with like Imagine Dragons, Linkin Park, it's the creativity.
Yeah.
And the dynamics of the music.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Imagine Dragons. It used to be a song I worked out to. It's I'm waking up, I'm giving it enough
Yeah.
to make my the
Yeah.
transitions in that song.
Yeah.
There's one part that I thought was so cool. The guy sings and he takes like this huge breath.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm waking up, this is it. And he goes, and then
Cool.
starts the next rate. Normally in music, you would take out that breath.
Yeah.
But for that song, it was like, yo, wait, okay. So sometimes in certain parts, it emphasizes the music to keep the breaths. Like I have a song now that I'm gonna release, and then I'm like, there are certain parts where like he was taking the breaths out, and I was like, wait, no,
Yeah.
leave that in.
Yeah.
It feels more natural. Like so, if I'm giving you a song and I'm like describing a story where I'm like running, and then you hear me breathing and signing out of breath while the music is going, it's like it adds another element to the music to further paint the picture.
Totally. Yeah.
So
Totally.
like so for certain artists you listen to and you hear certain things like Drake and Kendrick Lamar and J. Cole are incredible storytellers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you listen to that, you listen and you hear the stories that they tell and the pictures that they paint. And it's like, okay, well, how can I paint a picture that looks not saying like you want to do it exactly like them, but it's like when they're done, you see the picture.
Yeah.
It's almost like if someone's painting a picture and you can't see it and then they turn it around and now you see it. It's like,
Yeah.
how do I musically take them on that journey?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that answer, man. Yeah, encouraging artists to just, it's the toughest thing to sit down and practice your craft sometimes, but
Yeah.
it's the number one. And I think sitting around and waiting for inspiration is not really the move in my opinion. It's better to sit down every day and work on it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Facts.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Great advice, man. Um, Yeah, I just have one question before we wrap up, and I just want to. We kind of went over this already, but I want to know what impact you want to leave in the world with your creations
Sure.
ultimately.
Um, you know what, man? I want to be like a light in a very dark and cold world. I want to be a light,
Yeah,
and I want to take the stories and the pain and the scars that I've been through, put it to music, put it out, and it changed someone's life.
yeah,
And I feel like that, like the more I'm able to open my diary and say, hey, these are my scars, and then I give them to you, and you're like, oh wait, I have these scars too. No, now we have like common ground, and then we can build from there.
yeah,
So it's like I want to essentially give people kind of like a blueprint. Like, look at Kyle's life, look at what he's lived through, look at what he's been through. If God could do it for him, he could do it for you.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And just touch people's lives and on like a super intimate level. And then because like at the end of the like sometimes in life you go through things and you're like, yo, why did I go through that? Or what is like the point of all this? And I think getting to that point when I put out like the album and the things like that, you'll get to like, so I'll give you the title. The title of the album is going to be I Know This Much Is True.
mm,
And it goes from that song. I don't know if you remember the song. It goes bum 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 bum. I know this much is true.
no, no,
Yeah, I'll send it to you. It's a
yeah,
classic old song. My dad actually found it and let me hear it.
cool,
Um, and when I heard it, I was like, man, it like it resonated with me because it's
mm,
like there are so many things in life that you think are true that aren't, and it's like the things that I knew were true were like who I am as a man, who I am as a Christian, who I am in this life, what my purpose is, what I'm like, the messages that I'm trying to convey. Like I know those things to be true, and it's like at times I went through points of like depression and doubt and had suicidal like episodes and thoughts. And it's like, those things weren't true. Those things weren't who I really was. It was just what I was going through. And sometimes people look at like what you've been through and they think you are your experiences and you're not. So I think like bringing all of that, it's like bringing it all to like a culmination, putting it out into an album and then handing it to the people. It's like, I went through all this to bring you that.
Yeah. Oh, it's beautiful, man. It's really beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. And I mean, we went pretty deep in some spots on this interview, so I appreciate you being so open and everything, man.
No problem, man. It was dope.
Yeah. Where can people reach you and check out your music and follow you on social media and stuff like that?
Yeah, so on Instagram, my Instagram is I am Kyle AleXander. Facebook is Kyle AleXander. You can find me on Spotify, Apple Music, Google Play, Tidal. I'm on every streaming platform. It's Kyle AleXander. The only thing on Twitter, Twitter does not let me change my username. So it's still like my old username. It's Showtime_711 on Twitter. But if you type in Kyle AleXander, you'll find me that way as well. I have tons of content on the way. I have a new single coming in January. The lyric video is going to drop the same day. The actual video will drop that same month. So I have tons of content on the way. Please tune in. It's a lot, but it's all worth it.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Thanks so much for being on and chatting and taking the time, man. I really appreciate it.
No, man, I appreciate you, bro.
So I want to thank Kyle AleXander again for taking the time and giving me such great answers and sharing his thoughts on creativity and everything like that. I think the two things that I really take from him in terms of creativity is I love that he's listening to people like Imagine Dragons and Linkin Park. You know, I think it's easy for people to get caught up in your own genre and listen to your own genre, and then maybe you start just creating stuff that sounds exactly like everything else. And if you listen to Kyle's music, if you listen to Kyle AleXander's music, you'll hear an incredible amount of dynamics in his music. There's a lot of pulling instruments out, bringing them back in and really changing things, and also some really cool stuff with panning and echoes. And I think that dynamic, I think it comes from maybe a couple other places as well, but definitely listening outside of your genre can help come up with new and creative ideas, which I love that he does that. And finally, this is something that's come up with other artists, is this idea of creative service. And I think he put it more explicitly than anybody else, but really how he wound the interview up, saying that if he stops, who is missing out? And that is an incredibly powerful driving force to have behind you in your creative practice. If you can give yourself that confidence to know that you can write something that helps somebody, then it will drive you to create more and drive you to create more deeply as well. So I think it's a really beautiful concept. I really enjoyed the interview, and thank you for tuning in once again to The Conscious Creative, and I'll see you again next week with a brand new interview. Thanks so much.